Okay, so we're going to review some meditation, foundations of meditation for embodiment. Why meditate, right? So I said there could be different reasons for this. One would be like stress management, that's fine. Another would be, okay, I'm on a traditional Buddhist path to deep transformation, like enlightenment. And that's also fine, like that's not impossible. You know, I know people who have had these deep transformative changes that last. I've had them temporarily, and I know people, I've had, the most I had was for like 2 or 3 months, but I know people have had them, you know, that's how they are now. So this is possible. In embodiment, as embodiment coaches, we have a different aim, right? Which is essentially to build the foundation of our self-awareness, because all the other parts of embodied intelligence rest upon that. And yes, you'll get it moving. You'll get it, you know, in the gym for me, maybe martial arts or yoga. I encourage that. But you'll miss detail, the subtleties of things. Also, just the more I meditate, the more I have this consistent background body awareness. So when I'm with a client, it doesn't take much energy to put my attention on them and me, right? It's like most of my attention is on the client, but it's real easy for me to just hold some awareness. You saw me yesterday when I'm coaching, I'm checking in with myself intuitively, you know, and that's much, much easier if you meditate, you know. And for me, you know, there is still this degree of a little bit of stress management. You know, modern life is quite stressful. The 2 practices I'm recommending you do every morning, if you're serious about this as a career, one is some kind of sitting meditation, and it could be lying down or standing, but sitting is usually the middle ground between relaxation and alertness, right? And some kind of movement. So this morning we'll do both. Movement practice, I like walking in nature. That just gets me in my body like, just really effectively. If I'm in a city like today, which is people and cars, I'll do what I did at home, which is either lying on the floor or standing, like just a gentle mobilization practice. So I won't share that on camera, but it's basically like you move all the joints of your body one by one. After 5 or 10 minutes, you've moved everything. And it just means that if something's not moving, it's not feeling. Right? So by moving every joint in your body, you're like opening up the possibility for feeling. So that really goes well with the meditation. So if you're just sitting very still meditating, actually feeling will start to close down, actually. So this is a good combination to have some gentle movement. It could be gentle hatha yoga, it could be more like a free movement or a more structured one. I'll show you circles today. We call it circles because you do circles with the ankles, circles with the hips, circles with the shoulders. This is very easy to remember. And if you have 5 minutes, you can do that. 10 minutes maximum. So you don't have to do like a long hour of yoga, which most people don't have time for. So that could be a good warm-up for the gym or yoga. So they're the 2 things I recommend in the morning. In terms of the meditations I recommend, meditation is actually what we call a bucket category. Right? So a bucket category means like everything's thrown in it, yeah? What does it mean? Well, any systematic attention building practices would be one definition. Particularly, we're recommending ones on the whole body, and you might want to take notes for this. The variations are body scanning systematically, yeah? Emergent meditation, which is where you just feel whatever jumps into your attention. So this is easier because you're going with your distracted mind, as long as it's only on the body and not on sounds or thoughts or something else, right? You start, thinking of something, remembering something, planning something, you come back to the body, but you can come back to whatever's easiest in the body. Yeah, so that's the easiest, but it actually builds the attention muscle less because it's easier, okay? So if you're distracted or super ADHD or drunk too much coffee, that's a good option. Otherwise, I recommend more like systematic, because then you don't miss anything, and you actually have to work a bit harder to use your attention systematically. So for those 2 reasons, I'd say it's preferable. There's a third option if you're under-resourced. So we have systematic, emergent. Third option is just meditate on what feels good. So if you're under-resourced, or you're on holiday, or you're Italian, this is a perfect option. And that could be simply the out-breath. Or right now I'm sitting down, that feels good. Okay, I don't know if you ever worked in a cafe or a bar and had to stand up for 3 hours. When you sit down, it's like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Well, that feeling is actually always present when you're sitting down. It's like, this is nice, As you get older, it gets more pleasant. So there's always some pleasure, even if it's just the breath, in-breath, the out-breath, the letting go of the jaw, the shoulders, the feeling of ease, comfort. And if you're under-resourced, that's really nice, because we have a negativity bias. We tend to feel like, oh, I'm aching back or whatever. So the discipline of pleasure, right? It's disciplining yourself to focus on the positive, not the negative, which is a nice third option if you're having a bad day. Everyone got the 3 options? What are they? Systematic body scan, bottom to top, top to bottom. Emergent, so that's with whatever's jumping into attention. It's a bit easier. And the third one? Pleasure, Italian one, yeah? Okay. So we've got German, Italian, and ADHD. They're the 3 options. All right. So that's your main practice. Pick one of those and pick one in the morning. The second option is the breath meditation, but full body breathing. So either focusing on the belly, which is Burmese tradition, rather than the tip of the nose, because the belly is kind of more central and you can have some diffuse awareness, or focus on the breath moving the whole body. Because if one part of you moves, everything is affected because everything's connected, right? Like, as my diaphragm is connected to my psoas, so it's connected to my legs, and my spine is connected to my psoas, so it's connected to my skull. Like, everything's connected. If you're doing very gentle meditation, you'll actually feel the skull move, the feet move. Yeah, very subtle, but the more relaxed you are, the more it moves as well. You'll notice. Okay, so this full body breathing or belly breathing as a focus with a diffuse background awareness. So we're not dissociating. So that's our sort of second option. Some people find the breath causes anxiety. It's like stressful. So go to the body, no problem. And you can also be skillful in that. Like if you're very anxious, you could focus on the lower half of the body more. Or if you're very sleepy, you could focus on the upper half of the body more. Does it make sense? We could use a little bit of our subtle yes or no. No meditation, like meditation, I will not move. Rinzai Zen. And our yes meditation is like everything is perfect. Everything is good. Yeah, both are possible. So you can subtly do these micro poses of toolkit, or subtly bringing in an element. I might bring in a bit of elements in the meditation this morning, just to enrich that. It's another option. The third option, so we've got body, breath. Third option is the series of sort of positive emotion meditations. So there's 4 what's called Brahma Viharas in traditional Buddhism. The most famous is Metta, M-E-T-T-A, not the Facebook brand, God forbid. And this is where we're encouraging feelings of friendliness or kindness. Okay, why? Because it feels nice. It leads to ethical behavior. It counteracts fear and anger. It's resourcing. And we do this I'm going to show you a way to do this in a sort of embodied way today. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of 4 elements and then a little bit of metta. Metta is just one. There's also sympathetic joy, compassion, and equanimity, but that's beyond our scope today. Just, you can look these up very easily. Sharon Salzberg is good on these, for example. Cool. So that's the theory. Just a bit of credit, quite influenced by Shinzen Young on some of this. But also I'm trained fairly classically in Theravada Buddhism. Like I've stayed in monasteries and trained with a lot of Thai monks in particular, and they're the Germans of Asia. Like they're very systematic. Like they have the 7 this and the 5 that and the 4 that. They're very all about their lists. And if you like clarity, study Theravada. If you like magic and poetry, if you like magic, study the Tibetans. And if you like kind of humor and surprise, study Zen. These are sort of 3 of the big schools of Buddhism. There are Christian meditations and other secular meditations, but honestly Buddhism I kind of look at Buddhism like I look at the Vatican Museum. If you go to the Vatican Museum, you'll see just amazing art that's been saved over hundreds of years. Like it's an absolute treasure trove. Like if planet Earth was being bombed, it should be one of the first places to be rescued, evacuated to space, Buddhism's like that. It's a treasure trove. It's just Tibet's 1,000 years of research. So Vietnamese Zen we could look at as well, Burmese, Theravada, there's all sorts of traditions, but you'd be crazy not to look at it as an embodiment person. I don't identify as a Buddhist now, but several years of my life, I would listen to hours and hours of content a day. It's all on the internet now, and it's ridiculously rich. And Tibetan Buddhism is more than you can study in one lifetime. It's such a big body of work. It's like an encyclopedia of internal knowledge. And the same with Zen, the same with Theravada. Theravada I chose because it was sort of like, if you study it solidly for 5 years, you can more or less understand the structure. It's sort of doable. Yeah. Zen is something else. Zen is hard to talk about. Okay, so for our purposes, though, we're not becoming Buddhists or becoming enlightened. We're just building this muscle of body awareness. And then the metta side can just make it more, how can I put this? Like, if the body is a friendly place, it's easier to be embodied. Like we did this forgiveness work on day 2, I think. So also, if you just do concentration, you risk what's called the Darth Vader move, where you become like very concentrated, but you lose heart. You lose a bit of warmth. If you're prone to anxiety or aggression, I definitely recommend metta meditation. I'm not prone to anxiety, I am prone to anger, so for me it's nicely softening. Yeah. So, if you're someone who gets a little bit too attached to people, it might not be the best practice. You might want to practice just stone cold equanimity. Yeah. Does it make sense? So you see there's a bit more skill to your meditation selection than is commonly thought. People go, oh, I've got an app and now I practice mindfulness of breath. But this is beginner level and that's fine. If your mum just downloaded an app, good for her. But, encourage her. But for you guys, you're studying body-mind in a more sophisticated way, then you should look at your meditation choices with some discernment. Yeah. And some of it's going to be you choose what's convenient. Maybe you're Vietnamese, you really like Vietnamese Buddhism. Great, Thich Nhat Hanh is a beautiful teacher, Maybe you live in the south of France next to Thich Nhat Hanh, so you study with him, deceased now, unfortunately. Maybe you just have a heart calling to Tibetan Buddhism and its color and its gods and its art, Like me, I did martial arts, so Zen was really easy for me. It was already in my body from martial arts. I had that cultural conditioning, from Japanese martial arts. Or like me, I'm very logical. So when I discovered Theravada, I was like, okay, this makes more fucking sense than Zen. They would explain things. Theravadan Buddhists explain things. Zen Buddhists make you more confused. You hear a good Theravadan talk, afterwards you're like, oh, it makes sense. You hear a good Zen talk, you're like, what, did a chicken with one eye, what? So some of this is kind of to taste, Good. I have a Christian friend who does a Christian mantra, there's other possibilities if you're Aramatha, that's Jesus' name in Aramaic. You can repeat that as a mantra.